Today, I want to talk about watch collecting frustrations, things that can irritate us as watch collectors. Stay tuned. Probably like you, I watch a lot of content about watches on YouTube. And just the other day, I was watching one of Bruce Williams' most recent videos where he talked about silliness of watch collectors. Now, most of the video was his thoughts and likes and dislikes on a new Panerai submersible watch that he's thinking of getting. But he started out the video talking about how we as collectors and obsessives have some particular or maybe strange annoyances that we worry about in watches and maybe shouldn't worry about. And that got me thinking about some of my pet peeves or irritations when I look at a watch or I receive a watch. So I want to talk about that on this episode of Adventures with Time. But first, I have a favor to ask you. Many of you have subscribed to my channel, and if you haven't, please do so. But to those of you who have subscribed, I noticed that a lot of you haven't hit that alert bell icon to get notified whenever I post a new video. I wish that you would do that now. It would really help me out a lot in my channel. So go ahead and do that. We'll wait. Thanks for doing that. Now on to the things that particularly irritate me when I look at watches. And we really need to divide these pet peeves we have as collectors into two planes. One is dislikes or concerns about a watch, something about the model that we may like or dislike. But the other one is something that we notice or issues with the watch that we actually receive. The other plane really has to do with our expectations based on maybe the price of the watch. And I call this tolerance variations. And what I mean by that is the more one spends on a product, whether it be a watch or a car or a piece of furniture, the less tolerance you have to defects or issues with that product. Whereas with less expensive items, you're willing to live with a few annoyances or a few imperfections. And for simplicity, I'm going to break these tolerance levels into three different categories. At the top is luxury watches. In the middle is the affordable watch. And way down at the bottom is what I would call cheap or very low priced watches. And when I think about a luxury watch, I'm talking about watches that are priced over $1,000. That's a rough gauge here. In that level of a product, I expect everything to be not only to my liking, but when I receive the product, I expect it all to be perfect. No problems at all. That's my level of tolerance in watches at the luxury level. Let me give you one example of something that I didn't like. About a year ago, I was looking for a mid-tier luxury watch, and I was looking at one of the IWC watches, and it happened to be a Moonphase. I was in New York, and I went to one of their boutiques, and they showed me this really beautiful watch. I think it was priced around $7,000. It was one of the Portofino models. And the thing that I just could not wrap my head around at that price level is that where they placed the Moonphase was just under the 12 o'clock position. But in fact, it cut off part of the hour marker at 12 o'clock. Now, I could have accepted this on one of their models that only has hour markers. And I could have even accepted this on the model that used Arabic numerals. But the one I was looking at used Roman numerals. And when you cut off the bottom half of the Roman numeral 12, what it looks like is the Roman numeral 7. I just don't get it. You're making a $7,000 watch and the Roman numeral indices just aren't correct. You're essentially numbering the 12 o'clock position as 7. That's something that just bugs me. Even though it was a beautiful watch that I would have loved to have, I couldn't live with that. It's just something that irritated me. Now let's look at the other extreme, what I call the cheap or very low priced watches. And again, something under maybe $100, maybe under $150. At this level, I'm not really expecting much. I'm not expecting great finishing, great materials, a great movement. What I'm expecting really is that when the watch shows up, it runs, keeps fairly good time, within a minute a day, and it's going to run for a few years. The example I use here is my Vostok Komordaski, and I always screw up pronunciation of that, just like I screw up Stova. But let's go on. I didn't expect much from this watch. It was I think $75, $80 watch, including shipping. People said it's supposed to be a great watch. Other people think it's a piece of junk, and I don't mean any disrespect to those who love it, but I accept it for what it is. It's been a great watch for me. I wouldn't say that the bracelet is great. The bezel is got no control on it at all. It slips and slides. I do get fairly good accuracy with it, but that's about it. I accept it for what it is. In fact, I use it as my beater watch. But that's the level of tolerance that I have at this level of watches. Now, I think the most interesting is in that middle level, what I would call affordable. And I know this represents a great price range from, maybe $200 all the way up to $900. And you get a vast variety of watches and quality of watches at that level. But I've come to learn that after 3 years of collecting watches, I'm not even going to accept an affordable watch unless I like the design, unless I think the quality is there, unless I think my enjoyment level is going to be there. There can be some design things that I don't like. Hopefully, they're things that I can adapt to or modify. And an example there is the Green Alpinist that I bought almost 3 years ago now. I knew that the strap that it came with, the leather strap, was a piece of junk. At least a lot of people thought it was a piece of junk. And when I got it, I didn't like it at all. It was stiff, it was fake looking. But that's something that's easy to remedy. I actually bought the strap code Jubilee bracelet, which I wear on it sometimes, but actually I prefer the leather strap that I got for it, and it wasn't that expensive. And that's something that I can live with. That's sort of within my tolerance. But other things that are annoyances to me that may turn me off to the watch, even buying the watch, are things like the movement, if I don't like the movement, or the design, or the color trends of the watch. Those are things that have to be to my liking before I would get a watch. I don't care much about lume. Yeah, I'd like there to be some good lume on there. I don't care much about bezel action. That is something that turns a lot of people off if there's not good bezel action. I do require that the watch have a good finish and comes with a good finish for me. And of course, size is a consideration for me. And the thing that gets me the most is quality control of a watch. And that has to do with when I receive my specific watch, whether or not it lives up to my expectations. And the most irritating attribute to me is alignment. This will drive me crazy. And that could be whether or not the bezel aligns with the dial, whether or not the hands align. So when you're on the hour marker, the minute hand is right on 12. That would annoy me all to heck. Whether there's any imperfections in the dial face, whether with printing or how the applied markers are set. And an example of this is my Seiko Samurai, which I bought a couple of years ago. The first one of these watches I got had terrible alignment of the hour indices and the chapter ring. You could see it was lined up in one place, but down at the 4 o'clock, it was misaligned. This was unacceptable. Even though it was, I don't know, a $350 watch, that I couldn't live with. It would annoy me every time I looked at the watch. And I've had a couple other examples of similar misalignments where the bezel didn't align at the 12 o'clock hour. I never brought that up on any videos, but I actually got rid of a watch because it just annoyed me too much. These are the peculiarities that will drive some of us watch collectors crazy. And for me, alignment is one of those things. I could deal with a watch that's supposed to be accurate maybe to 15 seconds a day, and it's off by 20 seconds a day. If it's off a couple of seconds more than the specs, I can live with that. The other thing that really annoys me, if there are any scratches on the watch when I receive it. Yeah, now I know that I'm going to put scratches on it, especially the bezel, the clasp. When I rest my arm on my desk, I scratch it almost instantly. And I know I'm going to hit my watch against a wall and ding the case. But I want to do that myself. I don't want the watch to come with those imperfections. I know it's crazy because 2 days later, I'm going to add imperfection, but it just bugs the heck out of me. And for me, where I have the biggest problem is where I'm buying a watch at an AD. I really look over that watch in detail before I take it out of the store. I don't want to get home and then see, oh God, there was a scratch there or a misalignment, and they're not going to take it back because they're going to say, I put the scratch in there. In fact, when I examine the watch at the AD, I even bring a loupe, a magnifying glass, so I can inspect every square millimeter of that watch before I take it out of the shop. So what annoys you? I mean, to me, alignment and quality control is the biggest thing. And again, down at that cheap level, I don't care if it has a scratch. I only paid $80 for a watch. Big deal. But anything above that, that really drives me crazy. What impacts you? What are your pet peeves or little idiosyncrasies in collecting watches that really drive you crazy? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to see that Bruce Williams episode, I'll leave a link up here to that. And I'll also leave a link down here to the video I did where I had a problem with that Seiko Samurai. Until the next time, I hope you enjoyed this discussion. Don't forget to hit that alert bell icon, and I'll see you in my next video.